Hello, I am SquidofLove. Welcome back to another look at the rich and very interesting lore of the Star Citizen universe. We will continue discussing the alien races that exist inside the Star Citizen universe today, in order to not only understand how the relationship between the humans and these alien races was formed, but also what kind of opportunities might be waiting for us when more systems will be added in the persistent universe. So today we are going to focus on the Xi'an, which were the second alien race that was discovered by humans after the Banyu. And unlike with what happened with the Banyu, humans and Xi'an were not initially friendly when they first met. Actually, their first contact led to a 259-year Cold War. The Xi'an were first discovered by humans in 2530 when a shady terraforming human company, Gaia Planet Services, attempted to terraform a planet in the Pallas system, Pallas 3, without authorization. This was a very common practice back then when the humans had just started expanding into the universe. These kind of companies were trying to find a way to make some extra money to increase their profit. Prospectors were desperate to stake their claim on unformed worlds, and although there were federal protocols, some of these companies were following them, while others were not. The planet, of course, Pallas 3, was not uninhabited. It belonged to the previously unknown Xi'an Empire. Xi'an forces arrived immediately in the area and arrested the entire crew of the company, releasing only one worker as a gesture of good faith. A gesture that the Xi'an will repeat many times during the human-Xi'an Cold War. This fact is only showing to us that the Xi'an were indeed cautious towards humans, but at the same time were curious about this brand new race they had just discovered, and probably they were also looking for a way to communicate with them and cooperate. After the incident was reported to the human authorities, human forces arrived in the area and tried to find a way to communicate with the Xi'an. It took 15 days for humans and Xi'an to find a way to communicate, and over 57 days for the hostages to be released. Although this incident was resolved peacefully, it created tension between the two races and unfortunately led to the human-Xi'an Cold War that lasted for 259 years, from 2530 to 2789. In this situation, didn't help the fact that the Imperator and the human government often used the Xi'an threat as a way to terrify their own citizens and increase the power of the military. The Xi'an Empire proved to be the perfect excuse for the Mesa regime to remain in power and continue terrorizing humanity. Neither side declared war, and this is mainly because of the similar military capabilities and the fact that both sides, both races, were on a relatively equal technological footing, so the ability for mutual annihilation kept either side from attempting an all-out attack. But that doesn't mean there weren't casualties. During the Cold War between the two races, there were many victims on both sides from covert operations, sabotage, and espionage. Everything changed between the two civilizations on July 5, 2793, when the Perry Line Pact was signed. The Perry Line was a line of 8 systems between the UE and the Xi'an that served as a no man's land, keeping the two civilizations separated. It was like a natural border between the two empires, and it was patrolled frequently by both the UE and the Xi'an forces. In 2789, a bold human senator, Senator Akari, defied the Mesa regime and breached the line to meet with a Xi'an delegation on Tohil 3, led by the Xi'an Emperor himself. In that way, he was trying to make a deal with the Xi'an and the Cold War and start the cooperation between the two races, warm the relationship between the Xi'an and the humans. After negotiating with the Xi'an and their emperor himself on May 29, 2789, Senator Akari called for an emergency session of the Senate to present the peace accord, taking advantage of the Imperator's absence. The deal was narrowly approved by the Senate, but the Imperator refused to sign it. The population of the UE, though, was overjoyed with this peace deal because everybody was sick and tired of being constantly on the brink of war. The Xi'an, demonstrating their commitment to the agreement, withdrew their force from the area, but the human ships remained for years. And this is because the Imperator was refusing to sign the deal. It wasn't until 2792, when humanity finally overthrown the Mesa regime, that the UE could focus on rebuilding their relationship with the Xi'an. Warming the relationship with the Xi'an became a priority for the new UE Imperator, Erin Toy. when the negotiations between the two races started again, the Xi'an asked only one thing to the humans: what to do with the Xi'an systems. In reality, this was a test for the humans, and the Xi'an want to see how humanity will approach the problem and with what kind of people they were dealing with. The two races shared the systems of the Xi'an very easily, but there was only one problem, and this was the planet of Oya 3, a system full of resources where the Xi'an had a settlement before and were adamant to retain control. After many and hard negotiations, the Xi'an took control of the Virtus, Pallas, Hadur and Indra systems, while the humans kept Tohil, Oya, Garzel and Horus, with Xi'an retaining control of the former Oya 3 settlement inside the human-controlled Oya system. The treaty was signed on July 5, 2793, and the relationship between the two races entered a new era. In order to better understand the Xi'an and their way of thinking, we shall take a closer look on their society. The Xi'an Empire is a hereditary absolute monarchy, and the title of the emperor passes down through the family line. Currently, the empire is governed by Emperor Kr'thak, which was the same emperor that signed the Xi'an Treaty, since the Xi'an can live for centuries. The emperor has a high council of advisors, each representing a part of the government, and a similar government structure is found on each Xi'an planet, with every planetary council member reporting to their respective counterparts on the emperor's council. As for the military, service in the military is compulsory for every male and female, and after an obligatory term of service for 15 Earth years, all Xi'ans are considered to be reserve members for the rest of their lives. The standing Xi'an military forces consist of over 16 million members, not including the civilian populace, all of which have combat training. As for their religion, they have no official religion, but scattered belief systems that tend to offer more guidelines or promote universal spirituality rather than worshipping specific gods. Although the Xi'an history is rife with civil wars and power struggles, the Xi'an have never been the aggressor in any war since they were discovered by the humans. Actually, in the past 500 years, the Xi'an have adapted alternate methods to warfare, preferring subtlety and manipulation in order to avoid conflict. Their influence is also suspected in the revolution and overthrow of the Mesa regime in 2792, an event that changed the relationship between these two races and led to their cooperation and a better future between them. In the Xi'an Society, acting from emotion is seen as a sign of weakness and immaturity, and because of all these reasons, the Xi'an are considered the diplomats of the Star Citizen universe. This is also something that explains why the Xi'an treat humans as immature. To humans, the Xi'an might seem as rigid and lifeless, but in reality this is how the Xi'an approach strangers, as polite and neutral to see with who they are dealing with, and they let others to set the tone of the interaction. Once a Xi'an will start feeling comfortable with a contact, then he will become friendlier and relate on a more personal level. They do have, though, an us versus them mentality, and they will not hesitate to take another Xi'an side over an outsider, especially humans, unless definitive evidence is presented to support the outsider's claims. There are some Xi'an that can be seen in UE space, but they are usually traders or ambassadors, younger Xi'an who haven't quite settled into the Xi'an culture, and expatriates. There's definitely less crime per capita in the Xi'an Empire, but it still exists. And the Xi'an pride themselves on having dignified criminals. Their criminals are more like to the syndicates within the UE, it's more of an organized crime. There are, of course, some Xi'an pirates and smugglers, but they tend to be younger and operate mostly in UE space. At the moment there are only 14 known Xi'an systems, with more believed to exist deep into their space, and their homeworld has not been declassified yet. The Xi'an planets have specific purposes, and the Xi'an are terraforming their new planets in order to fulfill a certain function. And this is very interesting, creating some very interesting planets and places to visit when these new systems, when these new planets will be implemented in the persistent universe. Some of these very interesting systems include Ilus and Ilus 3 or Colli planet, which is Xi'an Empire's prime nature preserve. There are in fact 4 identical nature preserve worlds scattered around the Empire, and this planet, Colli, was laid out from the ground up to act as a massive zoo terrarium and features every single species located in the Xi'an sphere of influence. A very beautiful and interesting world to visit, but be warned that the Xi'an do not take kindly to attempting to import species from the other worlds without their permission. Also, the existence of this world, this nature preserve, might create some opportunities for smugglers if they want to steal, if they want to try and steal some of the species and sell them to the black market. Of course, if they can enter the planet unnoticed and escape from the Xi'an forces after. Rila is a former military bastion located one jump beyond the Perry Line, and it would have served as the launch point for Xi'an forces if they had ever gone into an all-out war with Earth. Rila would have been a key strategic point for the Xi'an Empire in their war efforts against humanity. Now it is turned into an industrial world and humans can even visit a specific area. Although the Xi'an Empire doesn't have an official religion, the system of Kaifa is considered the religious heart of the Xi'an Empire. On Kaifa 2, one day can last 100 Xi'an years, which are approximately 128 standard Earth years. This has attained religious significance and led monks to believe there is nothing holier than spending an entire day there meditating. The planet of Kaifa 2 is considered a place of peace, tranquility and meditation, and this is also where the centennial bloom plant grows that blossoms one night every 100 years. In the Irka system, Irka 4 is considered the system's central military world, and this is where forces from Perry Line withdrew when the Xi'an and the humans signed the Perry Line Treaty. This is also where the Xi'an military manufacturer Aopoa have their headquarters. We have mentioned before that the Xi'an are considered the diplomats of the Star Citizen universe, and this explains their relationship with the other civilizations in this universe, with the other alien races. They are friendly and of course trading with the Banyu, and they are neutral and also trading with the humans. They are indifferent but not welcome with the Vandul, although they do trade with some of their clans. The Vandul see the Xi'an as manipulators and cowards, while the Xi'an treat them as short-sighted barbaric thugs. Their relationship with the Kr'thak is tense and they were formerly at war, and Kr'thak is an alien race that was discovered recently by humans through the Xi'an. They have been Xi'an enemies for 700 years, and their home system is Kr'el, which is located on the other side of the Xi'an Empire. They are a spacefaring, nomadic race that owns several systems and migrate around them. Humans still haven't decided, still debate whether or not they should try to get into contact with them, because they don't want to risk the relationship they have with the Xi'an now, and this is mainly because the Xi'an have proclaimed Kr'thak as their enemies, and nobody knows how they will react if humans try to contact them. As for the Xi'an ships, all seem to have a vertical design, and their most known designs include the khartu-fighter, but also capital and cargo ships. Nowadays, more and more human and Xi'an manufacturers enter into tech exchange deals, creating new designs for the two races, like the khartu-al, but also the Reliant variants. These were the Xi'an, a very interesting and proud alien race in the Star Citizen universe that were not initially friendly with the humans, but they are trying now to cooperate and build a common future. Thank you very much for joining me. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more. I am SquidofLove, and I will see you around the verse. Bye bye.